Hi, I'm Dr. Jans Taylor, and I want to share with you my journey. I want to first give honor to my Lord and Savior for all He's done. I want to thank Dr. Letitia for this wonderful opportunity, and I want to thank my husband for his unwavering support, my children, and my mother. Life is full of surprises, disappointments, successes, and failures. The road is long, it's full of twists and turns, potholes, but many times it's smooth sailing. Life has a way of knocking you down, only for you to get back up to be knocked down again. You learn to pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you get back in the ring. But each time you learn something different, you do things a little different. You gear up with the armor of God. Jeremiah 1 and 5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations." I want to share with you my journey and how I came to where I am now. Life ain't been no crystal stair, quoted from Langston Hughes' poem. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina called Halifax County. I went to public schools from elementary to high school. I remember my younger years of being with my grandparents, getting off the school bus, and having them sitting on the porch waiting as I got out of school. I was their grand joy, and I was Granddad's little booger, as he called me. My grandmother knew the Lord. She would send her tithing money every Sunday to church. See, my grandmother suffered a stroke before I was born and was paralyzed on one side of her body. This never stopped her, though, from having hot meals on the table every day. I never once heard her complain about anything. The house we grew up in was a two-bedroom with no central air or heat. We had window units, fans, and kerosene heaters. And if anyone know about those, you know that was uh, how we survived back in the day. But life was good and it was full of love. Sadly, my granddad passed when I was in the seventh grade, and my grandmother passed the summer I was leaving for school or leaving for college. In high school, I suffered from low confidence, not feeling like I was smart enough. Now, to my friends, I was that girl. I was a cheerleader in high school. I won the most popular senior superlative in my class, but deep down, I struggled. I didn't know what college I was going to attend, had even gotten some rejection letters to top it off. Now, that surely made me feel less than and not smart enough. In life, though, there will be rejections, but when God has a plan, that yes will come. So I got my yes from Johnson C. Smith University, and off to college I went. I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. My plans were to study biology because I wanted to one day be a doctor. Now, this is high dreams for someone who didn't feel smart enough. After 2 years, though, I did transfer to North Carolina A&T, where I changed my major. I graduated and eventually worked in environmental health and safety. So one may ask, how did I become a nurse? Well, in high school, I took classes to be a nurse assistant and I worked in home health part-time while I was in college. But just to give a little bit of history, I've worked since the age of 16 years old, even through college, up until obviously now. After moving to Durham, I worked for a manufacturing company, and it was a nurse that I met there and worked with who encouraged me to pursue nursing because she felt I would do so well. She began teaching me things. I was getting the exposure that would be essential for my future. Fast forward a few years later, several years later, actually, the opportunity came for me to go to nursing school at North Carolina Central University. Now, going to school as a wife and a mother, my youngest son being 3 months old, was definitely scary. When I realized I would have to be in school for 3 years, I told my husband, and he said, okay, like it was nothing. Now, my husband and I are true opposites. I'm the overthinker, but he is definitely the one that not as not as not as an overthinker as I am, but I always say he's the calm to my storm. Now, what I know now is he saw the light that God had put in me, and I always say he's truly the wind beneath my wings. Besides raising a family, nursing school was hard. And when I say hard, I mean hard, all capital letters. I had one teacher during that time, during one of my clinical rotations actually, that kind of gave me a hard time. And I didn't understand it at the time, but it was such a hard time actually that it really had me thinking about giving up nursing. At the end of the semester, we had our one-on-ones, and she encouraged me, expressed that I would one day be a great nurse. Um, and that was surprising, but needed, obviously. She eventually wrote a letter of recommendation for me to get into my master's program. And what I knew after that, and know now, that God will send people to push you to your potential. At the time, it doesn't feel good, but it is necessary for growth. It was during nursing school that I learned that this was my purpose. Romans 8 and 28 reminds us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Now, once I finished nursing school, we have to take a nursing exam. I didn't pass my boards the first time. I was devastated. I cried like a baby. I felt like a failure. Thank God for my husband and my mom, who was always encouraging, uplifting, praying for me. But when I take a step back and look at what happened, I didn't prepare well for the exam. And I know I'm one of those that I don't thrive at taking exams. And so I know how I needed to prepare. So after not passing that exam the first time, I actually took a week off work the next time when I rescheduled my exam. And I studied like I was going to work full time. That morning of the exam, I knew that I would pass because God had shown me favor. Little things along the way, things were happening that I knew that I'm going to walk away with my exam, passing exam. Now, in my pursuit to do more with my life, I had to take a step back and learn who I was. I realized I liked to learn and move forward. I didn't like to be stagnant. I needed growth. Now, a self check can be hard for some people to do. I try to do that frequently for myself because, again, I like growth. I always tell my sons to know who you are, know what subjects you're weak in, and work hard to improve in that area. And this can apply in life or in school. This self check led me to furthering my education. When I told my husband I wanted to pursue my master's, he said, "Will you have time to do this?" And my response, if I waited on time, I would never do it. So here I was, I applied to one school, one that didn't require an exam, and one that had to take me as I was. I applied to Simmons University and was accepted, later learning that it's one of the actual top programs in the Boston area. Getting my master's was far from easy. Working full time at night, still raising a family while being a wife, daughter, friend, all the other hats that we all tend to wear. I actually was inducted to the Nurses Honor Society, Sigma Theta Tau. Now, this is exciting for me because I still continued to struggle with confidence, not thinking I was smart enough. I graduated, and then here's another board exam. But I knew how I needed to prepare. I bought exam books, took classes, workshops, Zooms, you name it, I did it. I made sure that I was going to be successful the first time. I got up the morning of my exam, drove to the place, took my exam, and I passed. Now, that definitely was a weight off my shoulder, and I thank God for all that He had done to prepare me for that. I began working as a nurse practitioner, but I soon had the urge to do something different. I wanted to help people get better. I wanted to start a business that didn't involve being a primary care provider. As much as I love patients and building relationships, I wanted to do something different. During my clinical rotation in my master's program, we took care of an older Black male who was prescribed more medication for ongoing disease state. I knew I didn't want to be that person. I felt there had to be something different, like what happened to educating patients on different things, whether it's the foods they eat, things like that. Like, what are we doing in healthcare? So going back to my BSN days, I started having GI issues, and over time it got worse. I finally took myself to the doctor, and I was treated for H. pylori. H. pylori is basically an overgrowth of bacteria in the gut, and if it's left untreated, can cause stomach issues and cancer. This is when I truly start to focus on my gut health. I was treated and I no longer have it, but I still sometimes have the after effects of it. I also began to look at alternative treatments for gut health. Now, after all this time of figuring out what I wanted to do as a business, God gave me the vision at the beach in June 2021 based off my health or gut health issues. Upon my return to work after that trip, I had the desire to move. And when I say that was heavy on my spirit, I called my husband and I said, I don't know what this feeling is, but it's telling me to move, and I feel like I can quit right now. I knew it wasn't time to quit, but I knew it was time to plan and work on that vision that God had given me. It wasn't until I started planning for the business with a friend that my spirit actually began to be settled. During this time, to pursue my dream, during this time, actually, the urge to pursue my dream of being a doctor was growing stronger. And just to give a little history, in 1996, I wrote in my senior book that I would be a doctor one day, own my own business. And I also wrote the number of children I would have, the type of house I would live in, and even down to the type of car I drive. And that's the car I drive today. So I began to look at schools. Again, I'm applying to one school. I applied to Duke University here in Durham, and I completed my doctorate in nursing practice in September of 2023. Now, I started school in January of 2022 and opened my health and wellness business in March of 2022. Apparently, I thrive at being busy, but I'm also a planner and I'm very organized. Jeremiah 29:11 says, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and to not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. My mom always says, if God gives you the vision, he'll give you the provision. Business was good. I was booked and busy my first year, all while still working my full-time job, operating my business after work and Saturdays. Second year was definitely not like the first year. Things were slower. Life was lifing. I just knew I was going to operate my business full time, right? Because God had given me this vision for the business and everything was smooth. I mean, even down to the planning, to the execution, having everything that I need, everything was smooth. But 2023 was rough. Personal and business was rough. To top it off, at the end of 2023, I was involved in a car accident where I was hit in the back. My paid off car, y'all, was total. I had to buy a whole new car with the car payment. But I trusted God. But honestly, all I had was that mustard seed faith at the time. At the beginning of every year, my husband and I will typically fast and pray for certain things for a certain number of days. And last year, I jokingly would say, Lord, did you hear anything I prayed about? I knew last year would be a challenge, and I thought I was ready. I never thought that it would have been that tough. And when I say that tough, every month, something. But God, although I had to purchase a new car, I was grateful that my life was spared. This was about elevation for me in my life, my business, personal. We have to always trust God even when we don't understand. And it's tough because we're human, right? As I was struggling with headaches and back pain, mental fatigue, God literally ended 2023 with me getting a notification that my nursing article was accepted for publication in a national nursing journal. Now, this blew my mind, y'all, because never did I think this would happen to me, a little girl from Halifax County who struggled with so much. Last year, I went into a period of isolation with my business, feeling like I had no one that I could talk to about business stuff. Now, people would say they would help, they wouldn't. Questions I had, no one to turn to. You can reach out to people, no response. It was a struggle. But I now know that God needed to isolate me to show that my trust was in Him and not in man. but I had to endure that season. I started 2024 with a new mindset, one of being purposeful. My goal was to be surrounded by like minded women in business with a heart for God. I started the year reading Purpose Driven Life with my former First Lady and other ladies from different states. We Zoom every Sunday discussing the chapters and sharing what it meant to us. This was such a profound moment for me. My youthful days were a struggle, and you don't often understand why things happen. But after reading this book, it helped me to understand that God knew what I was going through. It hurt him that I went through being talked about, told lies, that I wasn't loved, pretty much mental abuse. But what I went through was necessary for me to be where I am now. I also listened to an audiobook called We Should All Be Millionaires. Now, this definitely helped to take my thinking to a different level. After all of this, things just began to evolve. Business was growing again. I started crossing paths with phenomenal women entrepreneurs who looked like me and building the relationships that God has purposed. And I'm still working my full time job and running my business. Now, my journey has never been easy. In fact, I had a conversation with my husband about how everything seemed to be so much harder for me. Like, why does everything have to be so difficult? I wanted to run my business full time, have the space to do all the things that I wanted to do because that's what God had given me this vision, right? And his response was, "Your calling is different." And he began to tell me how a diamond is formed, the pressure it undergoes to form this beautiful piece that we see. And he told me, he said, "You're in the polishing stage." So I want to encourage you today to keep going, no matter how hard your journey is. We have to go through to get through. There will be days where you're tired and you want to give up, but don't. A simple prayer is, "Lord, give me strength," is all you need to get through. And trust me, that is my prayer, plenty of days. I want to leave you with this. Take one day at a time. Take everything one day at a time. Be persistent. It always seems impossible until it's done. Be confident. You're braver than you believe, stronger than you see, and smarter than you think. In the words of the late Maya Angelou, life is going to give you just what you put in it. Put your whole heart in everything you do and pray. Then you wait. Be blessed and find joy in your journey. It won't always feel good, but everything works together for our good. Be blessed and enjoy your day.
I want to begin with a very simple question. Have you ever noticed how your inner thoughts influence the way you communicate, the way you move, the way you do things, the things you do? See, our mindset, that internal dialogue, significantly impacts the words we choose and the way we express ourselves. Our words are very powerful, shaping not only our relationships, but also the outcomes in our life. What we say can either build someone up or tear them down, uplift or discourage. But behind every word we speak lies something even more powerful, our mindset. I'm B. Jacqueline G., your transformational growth strategist, mindset strategist, and effective communication specialist. And I want to explore with you how mindset affects our ability to speak life. I'll share with you 3 points. 1, the influence of self talk. 2, the power of perception. And 3, the importance of positivity, which each of these points will explore how they reflect either a growth or a limited mindset. One of my former mentors used to always say, wherever you are, your mind got there first. And even the Bible tells us that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. It also tells us to renew our mind daily. So let's get into it. Point 1, self-talk. That's the foundation of our words. So the first area where mindset affects our words is through our own self-talk. Self-talk is that constant internal dialogue we have with ourselves. It's a direct effect on how we speak to others, how we speak life. The person you listen to the most is you. So what we say to ourselves has a direct influence on how we speak to others. A growth mindset encourages us to speak words of confidence, clarity, and hope, whereas a limited mindset often leads to negativity, hesitation, harshness, self-doubt, and critical speech. Doesn't sound like speaking life, does it? Imagine this. Imagine you're preparing for a presentation at work or in your business or wherever. If your internal dialogue is if your internal dialogue is, I'm not good at speaking publicly, I'll probably mess this up. What do you think is going to happen? Exactly. You may stumble through your words or speak hesitantly or struggle to even connect with your audience. On the other hand, if your mindset is prepared to say, I know this material, I'm prepared for it, I'm ready, and I'm going to do well, then your words will reflect confidence and ease and mastery of the subject. The challenge we have here is that most of us aren't even aware of the negative self-talk that we engage in daily. It can be automatic, a habit forming type thing that happens over time, and it's often influenced by past experiences or external pressures. So what do you do with that? The solution really is, and the key is to overcoming negative self-talk is recognizing it, acknowledging it, and then intentionally replacing it with affirmations rooted in truth. To combat negative self-talk, start by practicing awareness. I know in this situation, I usually say this, but this time I'm going to do something different. Catch yourself when you're being self-critical or doubtful. Replace negative self-talk with affirmations. For example, instead of I can't do this, say I'm capable and I'm learning every day how to do this. Over time, your mindset will shift and so will the way you communicate with others. You will begin seeing yourself speak life more. Number 2, perception influences our conversations. So the second way that our mindset affects our ability to speak life is through our perception of situations and people. Our perception of the world and people around us shapes with the negative, shapes how we communicate. And if we approach a situation with a negative or defensive mindset, guess what? Our words will follow that. So conversely, if we approach a situation with an open and growth mindset, our conversations are more likely to be constructive. With a growth mindset, we view challenges as opportunities to learn and grow and expand our capacity for our expertise and our mastery of whatever we're doing. With a limited mindset, we see obstacles as threats, which often results in defensive, negative, and judgmental speech. No speaking life going on there. Let's think about this. Say you have a colleague or a friend who you don't believe respects your ideas. Every time you interact with them, you already are on the defensive and you're thinking, this is going to be a tight situation. They're always downing me or whatever. And your conversations tend to be filled with tension or these little subtle jabs, or what we also call throwing shade. Do they still say that? But what if you shifted your mindset and assume that this colleague simply has a different communication style? rather than disrespecting you. They're not. They just communicate differently. This change in perspective can lead to more productive conversations and collaborations. A limited mindset might perceive this person as combative, leading you to speak words that are defensive or critical. However, the growth mindset reframes the situation. This person is challenging me, but maybe there's something I can learn from their perspective. What kind of growth do I need to get here? What's being birthed out of me during the situation with this person? This shift allows you to speak with respect, curiosity, and life rather than judgment. So the challenge, of course, is here as well. And the challenge we have here is that once we've developed that perception of someone or something, it's hard to break from that, right? Because it comes from a bias that, and we tend to act first on our first impressions or our biases. We defer to interpret everything through that lens, even if it's inaccurate. So when we perceive someone or something negatively, it can be difficult to change that perception, and it often leads to harsh, unkind words instead of speaking life. So what do? The solution is to adopt a mindset of curiosity rather than judgment. Ask yourself this: is my perception based on facts, or am I making these assumptions? Am I stereotyping? Am I pigeonholing someone? When you engage in conversations with the belief that there's something to learn from every interaction, your words become more open, respectful, and understanding. When we train our minds to perceive situations through this lens, our words also become more gracious and constructive. Okay, point number 3. Positivity powers influence. Everybody wants to be influential, right? Well, look at this. The third way our mindset affects our ability to speak life is through the power of positivity. A positive mindset not only influences the tone and the content of what we say, but also how others perceive us. Words spoken from a place of positivity uplift, inspire, and motivate, while words rooted in negativity tend to drain energy and create resistance and even barriers. A mindset of positivity reflects a growth oriented approach, one that sees abundance, opportunity in every situation. A limited mindset, on the other hand, focuses on scarcity and fear. Probably scarcity too. You're probably scared a little bit. But that leads to negative or discouraging language. The words we speak often mirror the positivity or lack thereof within our hearts. And yes, the heart does have a brain. So look at this example. Consider this. A leader or a colleague or a friend is addressing the team after a challenging quarter, a challenging situation. And the leader with a negative mindset might say, "We didn't meet our targets and this is disappointing. We need to work harder. We failed." But a leader with a positive mindset says, "Although we face some challenges this quarter, we've identified areas for growth. And I'm confident that together we can overcome them." The latter not only acknowledges the difficulty, but it also instills hope and resilience, perseverance, fortifying them, and encouraging the team to move forward with renewed determination. Now, who would you rather work for or work with? The negative mindset or the growth mindset person? As the others, this point also has a challenge, and that challenge is maintaining a positive mindset, especially during tough times. COVID kind of taught us that, right? It isn't easy. So stress, setbacks, pandemics, economic changes, and often things that show up in our lives show up in our words. Maintaining a positive outlook and speaking words of life in difficult situations requires intentional effort, and it requires you rewiring, your brain to not go down that negative pathway, but to see the positives and see the growth. So what's the solution here? To maintain a positive mindset, we have to practice gratitude. I know that sounds simple, but saying you're grateful about something actually increases the endorphins and shifts that mindset to something that is better. We need to focus on solutions rather than the problems. When you face challenges, consciously choose to frame your language around the possibilities. Instead of saying, "This is impossible," Say, what can we do to make this possible? See, positivity is contagious. And when we speak with optimism, it not only affects your mood, but also energizes those around you. A positive, growth oriented mindset allows us to speak words that build others up. And it helps us to see the possibilities as well as them, rather than focusing on the obstacles and things that we can't do. When we cultivate a heart of gratitude, even in adversity, our words naturally reflect hope and encouragement, and we're able to speak life better. Think about all those Olympic athletes who faced challenges of muscle strains and tiredness, and one even had COVID, but still ran his race. And even though he came in second, he really was the winner because he didn't see that particular situation as something to stop him. He saw it as something to catapult him to getting on that stand to get an actual medal. So, in summary, our mindset is the foundation of our words. It is a powerful force that shapes the words we speak, which in turn impacts our relationships, our leadership, and overall our influence. When we have a growth mindset, our communication reflects hope, faith, and encouragement. It reflects that we can do this attitude. Conversely, a limited mindset leads to negativity, doubt, and discouragement. And a lot of times, I hate to say this, not achieving your goals. By improving your self-talk, shifting your perceptions, and harnessing the power of positivity, we can transform not only our communication, but also the results we achieve in our personal and professional lives. Remember, the words you speak today are a direct reflection of the mindset you choose to cultivate. So what are you cultivating? Are you focused on the weeds? Are you focused on the growth, what should be happening in the soil of your mind? Remember, you have to be intentional and you have to choose wisely. But most importantly, make sure that you are in the vein where you can speak life. Thanks again. I'm B. Jacqueline Jeter, and I want to say thank you to Dr. Letitia Beatty for this opportunity to be able to speak life at this Speak Life virtual conference.
Hello, I am Dr. Marcia Burnett Whitaker, and I am a physician as well as a health and life coach. And I serve as the CEO of In Full Bloom Health and Life Coaching. And one of the things that happens is that as a physician, people are always asking me for that magic pill to good health. Whether they are trying to slim down and, get their sexy back, whether they're looking to find happiness, also more likely known as, being less depressed, or boosting their energy levels, or yes, even improving their sex drive. And while I love to say that it's as easy as popping a pill, let's not forget about all of those side effects of medicine, in addition to the loose skin or sexual dysfunction or even loss of consciousness. And you're like, oh, yikes. But what if it were easier? And I'm not talking about the herbal treatments or mushroom coffee. I'm talking about something even simpler. Today, I'm going to speak to you about speaking life into your health. And we're going to explore how combining mindset shifts with life coaching tools can create a profound change in your well-being without needing a prescription. And so, as a physician and a life coach, I've seen firsthand how the mindset and lifestyle choices affect our health. So I want you to imagine if you've ever gone to the doctor's office, and this is maybe your third or fourth visit, coming to see about your blood pressure that's been running a little high. Now, what started off as a casual conversation with the medical assistant has now turned into your doctor pulling out that infamous prescription pad, trying to prescribe you some medication. This moment right here is where the mindset interacts with medicine in a powerful way. As a physician, I can write that prescription, but as a life coach, I can help you rewrite the story that you're living. And let me ask you, which one do you think will change the life forever? In my journey, both as a physician and a life coach, I've learned that the path to true health doesn't just lie in medication and checkups, but it's also about how we live, how we think, and how we lead ourselves. So let's explore the three key principles that can transform your health. I want you to put in the chat, transform your health. Write it down on your notepad, transform your health. The first key principle is that it's the power of choice in your health. Our health is influenced not only by our genetics or our environment, but also by the daily chores or choices that we make. Yes, we all know that diet and exercise and sleep are all important, but the real game changer is how our mindset shapes these decisions. Our problem, however, is that we want the quick fix, don't we? Instead of doing the work over time that leads to change in the real drivers. In life coaching, we focus on the power of choice and what we can control. The ability to choose our response to life's challenges is the key element. And this applies to health as well. Every choice you make can either bring you closer to wellness or move you farther away from it. So I want you to think about it. Every day you get to choose. And we're faced with many choices, whether we're going up or down or left or right, saying yes or no. These binary options leave us trapped in this box. In the answer, the question is, do I live or do I die? Am I right or am I wrong? Will today be the day I prioritize my health, or will I let my circumstances make the decision for me? The missing piece in all of this is that there is choice. And I use what I call the 64 count crayon method. We usually make choices between the white crayon and the black crayon. But again, these choices, when there's only two options, it boxes us in, it squeezes us, it makes us feel like we are trapped. But I want to know, what about the red crayon? What about the orange crayon or all the blue crayons? Or better yet, the canary yellow crayon or the shamrock green crayon or even the royal purple crayon. Listen, there are other options in your box. In fact, there are likely many ways to do it. And there's a way to get both things that you're looking for. There's a coaching paradigm that says it's not either or, but it's both and more. And we just have to open up our mind's eye to figure out how we are going to navigate that space. But above all, it's about progress and not perfection. We don't have to get the blood pressure from where it is to normal overnight. Because in reality, from a medical perspective, that's actually dangerous. What we want is a gradual decline of the blood pressure and keeping it stable. So let's start making small, intentional choices that promote health. It's not about overhauling your life overnight, but asking yourself in each moment, is this choice bringing me closer to health, or is it pulling me farther away? And the question is there progress forward? So, for instance, making consistent choices like opting for a healthier meal, and I said a healthier meal, or going for a 15-minute walk. Those choices in the moment can both reduce the risk of chronic illnesses such as diabetes or heart disease. And so I want you to think about a recent health-related choice that you've had to make. Maybe it was skipping a workout or grabbing fast food. Now, you thought I was going to say something a little bit more meaty, but these choices that don't seem to be that important, they are. And you can move the needle by making small tweaks. So now I'm going to ask yourself, if given the chance, how could you approach that situation differently next time? Again, one small tweak can make a difference. Because remember, we're talking about progress and not perfection. The second thing I wanted to share with you is that aligning your health goals with your core values is an important process. Vision is important in how we set our career goals or our relationship goals or our personal goals. In health, we may dream of what we want our bodies to look like or what our blood pressure to be, but we don't truly go into vision for our bodies and for our health. Now, many people set health goals, particularly in the beginning of the year, like losing weight or lowering their blood pressure, but oftentimes we fail to follow through. And the question is, why is that? And the answer I'm going to submit to you is that it's because those goals aren't aligned with our deeper values. So in life coaching, we identify these core values and help you align your actions with those values. And so when your health goals match your values, now you're far more likely to stick with them. Think about that scenario of going into the doctor's office and the blood pressure being high. As a life coach physician, I would talk to the patient, find out what their values are. Maybe their values, one is that they don't want medication and they want to be around to play with their grandchildren. So now I would use that information to talk about how are we going to work together to lower the blood pressure in a way that helps them maintain and deliver on their values. So let's do a quick exercise. And I want you to take a moment to reflect. What are your top 3 values in your life? And go ahead and jot those down. The top 3 values in your life. And now I want you to think about your top 3 values in your health. And I'm going to give you a second to do that. But the real question is, are the actions you're taking The actions that you're writing on both sides, are they aligned together? Are those actions, are the values the same? And are your actions that you're taking aligned with those values on both sides of that piece of paper? So, for example, if your family is your core value, then prioritizing your health may mean staying active so you can be present and involved with your children or grandchildren. So when you set health goals that are driven by your core values, it no longer feels like a chore. It no longer feels weighty. If vitality and energy are important to you, then choosing nutritious foods or taking time for self-care will naturally feel more aligned with who you are. So when patients set health goals that are rooted deeply in their values, they're far more likely to see long-term success in managing conditions like obesity or high blood pressure. Your values are the true fuel for sustainable change. Now, the last key is the role of self-compassion in healing. I know it sounds like they may not go together, but let's talk about self-compassion, which is probably one of the most overlooked tools in healing. Studies show that self-compassion is linked to better mental and physical health outcomes. Who knew, right? Those who practice self-compassion recover faster from illness and are more likely to adopt healthier habits. In life coaching, we talk about being kind to yourself. Again, perfection is not the goal, but progress is. And after all, we are human, and setbacks are just a part of life. I want you to think about the last time you fell off the wagon with your health goals. For some, that was last month, last year, or for some people, it's today. But what is your first reaction? Did you beat yourself up, or did you give yourself grace to start again? Here's a simple self-compassion practice. The next time you encounter a setback, acknowledge it without judgment and take the next best step. So simple. Don't dwell on it, on the fact that it didn't go right, but focus on what you can do next. It's a learning opportunity. And if you don't change what you do next, then have you really learned the lesson? And when that happens is that we tend to go back and go around the same lesson over and over again. But what if we could practice kindness towards ourselves in moments of failure? Remember, health is a journey, not a destination. And it's okay to make mistakes along the way. If you made some mistakes along the way, just kind of raise, I can put both hands up and maybe some feet as well. But I've seen patients who are kinder to themselves be more consistent with their treatment plans, more resilient during recovery, and better able to manage chronic conditions. Self-compassion directly impacts your health. And so what I want you to do, I want you to give yourself a hug, right? This is a self-compassion hug, okay? Because what you're doing right now is going to impact your health. And so as I close, I want to just recap that we've explored 3 key principles that can transform your health. The first, the power of choice. You have the ability to make decisions every day that either support or undermine your wellness. And micro choices count. The second is that aligning your health goals with your core values will lead to sustainable change. And finally, self-compassion is crucial in the healing process. My challenge to you is think about that one small change that you can make this week. Maybe it's a choice that aligns with your values, Or maybe it's simply showing yourself more grace when things don't go as planned. Your body and your mind will thank you. And remember, health is not a sprint, it's a marathon with plenty of snack breaks along the way. So be kind to yourself on this journey because the finish line is where you decide to draw it. I am Dr. Marcia, physician, life coach, and the CEO of In Full Bloom Health and Life Coaching. Thank you for joining me today. Let's get out there and start speaking life into your health. You can find me at www.drmarcia.com. Take care.
Hello, everyone. It is your host, Dr. Letitia Nicole Beatty, and I am here just to say thank you so much for watching day one of the Speak Life Summit. I can't wait until you see the rest of the speakers for tomorrow. Today's speakers were absolutely phenomenal. Dr. Janice, Dr. B. Jacqueline Jeter, and last but not least, Dr. Marcia. Thank you so much for all your inspiration and everything that you poured out on today. I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Peace and blessings unto you. Bye.